I talked about in the previous video our thoughts and how our thoughts tend to be repetitive. We think about the same things and we think sort of at the same frequency or sort of the same kinds of thoughts. And so therefore we take the same kinds of actions. We attract the same kinds of people. We look for the same kinds of information or news or statistics, and we reinforce our original thought. And so this keeps our reality in this closed container, which I called a room. A little room in a little house in the big wide universe. And I said at the end of that video that spiritual wisdom is just recognizing your room for what it is. And spiritual practice is just recognizing the room over and over. Anyone can do this anytime. While eating dinner or walking or sitting at a desk, we can just pause for a moment and just be aware what we're thinking without believing in it. Or we can just be aware of the sights and sounds and sensations we're experiencing without commenting on them. And this alone is a powerful spiritual practice. There are also other spiritual practices that more resemble practicing an art or a sport in that we set aside time to do them. And one powerful and common such practice is meditation. As you probably know, there are many different methods. Some involve repeating a mantra or focusing on our breathing. But the idea is just to interrupt that 24/7 thought broadcast that is usually streaming through our internal airwaves. The particular something that we direct our attention to is not so important, whether it's a mantra or our breathing or the humming of a refrigerator. It just has to be undramatic. That's the point. So that it doesn't trigger or stimulate those habitual thought responses. So we're trying to set our minds as close to neutral as we can. The most direct meditation method is no method. It's just being aware of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations and allowing them to be there. We can even allow the thought that we're failing miserably at meditation, a thought I have frequently, or that we have no idea what meditation even is. We can allow that thought. If we react to a thought with judgment, we can allow the judgment to be there. If we judge ourselves for judging, that's allowed as well. So no matter what thought, reaction to a thought, or reaction to a reaction to a thought, it's always possible to step outside of it and let it be there. The idea is complete permission. Everything can be allowed because none of it is you. You are just watching. Now, when a lot of people hear complete permission, their mind immediately jumps to an image of mayhem. A lot of us have an idea that only certain things should be permitted to prevent chaos and harm. But the complete permission of meditation isn't the same as running amok in the world. And that's because the permission in meditation allows the thought, feeling, or urge to just be without it having to lead to some action. It's almost as if the thought, feeling, or urge needed the action in order to prove itself in some way as valid. But when it's simply allowed to be, no further validation is needed. Normally, our thoughts, feelings, and urges automatically lead us somewhere. We get angry, for example, and it immediately leads to saying something harsh or accusatory. Or we think, I'm unlovable, and we take this as true, and that leads to feeling depressed, which leads to eating a pint of chunky monkey. These are the kinds of automatic actions that cause chaos and harm. And most of the words and actions of most people are of this automatic kind. To put it another way, most of what we call our actions are really reactions. These reactions keep us going in circles inside our room. Meditation can theoretically hold any thought, feeling, or urge in the container of detachment. Detachment is like a larger room that contains the first room. By stepping outside of every thought, feeling, sensation, or urge, and just allowing and observing them, we hold them in the biggest container of all, our awareness. The key to this allowing is that fundamental insight of spiritual wisdom, not identifying who you are with your thoughts, feelings, and urges. In this allowing, we don't take anything that arises in our inner world as a substantial truth. No thought or feeling has to imply or mean anything. No thought or feeling must lead to some other thought or feeling or action. It can just be there. It isn't who you are. Detachment is natural. When a squirrel runs across your lawn, you probably don't get upset. You probably don't take the squirrel as a comment on you. You probably don't feel compelled to react to the squirrel in any way, except maybe curiosity or delight. Now, most would say a squirrel is more real than a thought. It's certainly more substantial. And yet, we usually allow our thoughts to drag us around as if they were wild horses. Detachment may be natural, but that doesn't mean it's easy. In Western culture, there's a big difference between natural and easy. Detachment is not easy because of our intense and prolonged conditioning to do the opposite. Our culture bombards us with the idea that we're tied to those wild horses and there's nothing we can do about it. We are encouraged, in other words, to believe thinking, feeling, or doing something means being that something. We see this reflected in how we speak. So we say, for example, I am angry instead of I feel anger, or maybe anger is arising. We say, I am a doctor instead of I practice the art of medicine 40 hours a week. Or we say, she is smart instead of she gets good grades in high school math. If we believe our thoughts, feelings, and actions stick to us and reveal something about our true identity, then they become a problem. So if, for example, we don't want to share our favorite dessert at a restaurant, someone may tell us, you are a selfish person. This may make us angry or ashamed or self-sacrificing, all of which lead to more problems. Or if a man cries, he may believe that makes him a weak person. And then that might cause him to avoid intimacy, which will make him sadder and want to cry even more. If someone feels anger, they may believe that makes them a violent person. In all these cases, we'll spend energy trying to deny and resist problematic thoughts and feelings. But as every psychologist knows, this is counterproductive and exhausting. Trying to stop wild horses only makes them wilder. So in meditation, we simply cut the rope and watch the horses gallop off. The horses are allowed to be horses, and you are allowed to be whatever you are. There are literally no problems. So heroic effort isn't needed for meditation, nor is discipline in the way we usually think of that word. The discipline needed for meditation is not trying to rein in our wild horses. It's the relentless slicing of the rope to let the horses run off without us.